Hi everyone, it's Jerry. Let's have a look at a game between Ignatz von Popiel, playing on the white end, and Georg Marco. This was played at the Monte Carlo Tournament in 1902. This tournament consisted of 20 of the world's best players. To name a few others that were competing, Harry Nelson Pillsbury, Siegbert Tarrasch, Carl Schlechter, Mikhail Chigorin, Frank Marshall, the list goes on. Many of those names I just shared probably ring a bell. They were pioneers to the opening variations we know today. So let's dive into this one and see what made it so special. Let's see in what position Mr. Marco committed his ultimate blunder. Von Popiel opening up with e4, Marco replying with e5. We have a Philidor defense. What's the great excitement with this defense? If there's one square that should stick out, it is e5. White will look to overtake this point. Black will be there to secure it with the queen, knight, and the queen, as we will see. Queen there, knight there. Why is this such a big focal point? Well, if e5 is no longer, that would mean the e4 pawn would become mobile. And at any point can, of course, push, and maybe the knight, his post would be brought into question. It could have this type of domino effect. So continuing, we have knight to g5, pinpointing f7. This is conveniently defended. Black makes a move that he wanted to play anyhow, and defends f7 now. And we know that it's just not a good idea to give up two minors for a rook and pawn. So what is really the point of knight g5? It was a clearance. f4 is now available, putting pressure on e5. Black expands on the queen side. Bishop needs to find a new home. And now a6. So this solidifies b5. So black is aiming for now c5, striking at the center. Castles, bishop b7, rook a to e1. At this point, 12 moves in, both sides are connected with their rooks. How will play follow up? First, the knight's given a kick, and this is where Marco now goes hunting for the bishop. And at this stage, white says, you know what? My knight's going to probably get kicked. He's going to have to find a new home. And, well, I'm okay with giving up the bishop. He retreats and is prepared to promote the knight next on e3. c5. Black doesn't take the bishop just yet. Instead follows through with this idea after a6. c5 was the point. So the bishop's eyes are open. d4 is hot. c3 follows. And now we have some of the tension released. E takes d4. C takes d4. Knight takes bishop. Now that the position has opened up, things are looking nice for the bishops. And now we have a capture on e5. Knight takes, and improving the knight. This square is finally available. e5, you could play this move, but, you'd be losing a pawn now. It is mobile, but there's enough support on it still. And soon there's going to be a bishop there as well, and even a rook. e5 is difficult to play. So there's an isolated pawn, a pawn duo here. Let's see how play develops. First it's knight to f5. This is a super invasive knight. The bishop is not around to combat or help fight for the f5 square, and he's a difficult piece to chase away. g6 is dropping a pawn. So you kind of have to work around him. Let's see how black does this. First, it's bishop f6. This is the unopposed bishop, and it's hard to argue with placing a bishop on the longest diagonal on the board. An unopposed bishop, placing it on the longest diagonal, usually a good idea. f6 is a good post. Bishop is out of the knight's way now. And we have rook f to e8. So something to note about this position, these two bishops are not competing for the same diagonal. Whose diagonal is better is a question. At any point, let's not forget that h6 has been played, G6 is a little bit soft, and white could look to play E5 and form some kind of a battery, sneaking into the king side. This is a possibility at some point, this kind of this clearance move, just pushing E5, opening the bishop's eyes and preparing a battery. First, it's queen to F3, just getting out of the rook's way, but you know what, at the same time, it's opposite the bishop. But there is this idea to play D5, taking advantage of the pin pawn. Playing D5 right now, white could reply with E5. So queen is better on F3 than E2. These knights are strong. Black is looking to challenge one of them and is successful with these next handful of moves. We have a knight capture, and after the pawn recapture, it closes the rook's eyes along the e-file, but it addresses this strong post on F5. He has to find a new home. White says, not just yet. I'm going to pin your pawn. Black unpins, so now he has to find a new home, and decides on E3. Continuing, we have a check, king H1, and the offer of a queen exchange. White does well to decline it, making the best move here, queen to D1. And yeah, there's this idea now to slip into G4, H5, and this light square, now that black has captured like this, G6 is that should really stand out in one's mind. This is a weak point in black's camp, and the bishop is ready to eye it up. So black has to be very careful here. This next move is not good by Team Black. Black goes pawn hunting, capturing on B2. A better choice is to make sure this diagonal never opens. Black should play E5 here. White is still for choice in this position, but E5 is the best move here, shutting the diagonal for good. Bishop takes B2 in the game. White does not follow up in the best way. E5 would be best, ensuring the diagonal is opened, and then trying to form some battery, looking for mate on H7. Instead, white goes and scoops up a pawn, basically saying, you took my pawn, I'm going to take yours. But now the queen, there's a downside with capturing this particular pawn, because now the queen is going to get struck at. The rook is now activated, queen has to do, a move where she's not connected with any other white piece. She's just all by herself over here on the queen side. And, okay, she's throwing a punch, but she basically just has to relocate, and does next. Queen F2, bishop D4, queen F3, and what to do now? The queen is constantly getting harassed one way or the other. Rook F8, the bishop on B7. She's in multiple pins. So what does white do? First, it's rook C1, queen B4, queen D3. Seems a little bit awkward, but the bishop can't go, can't make a move. There's an unprotected rook on D7. E5 now. There was this idea to play E5 and then go for mate. So E5 it is. F takes E5. Rook takes rook, rook takes rook. Queen to E7. That's a game-losing move. A big shift in the evaluation after queen to E7. A better move here is rook to D8, and at least you have the option to move the bishop and be protecting your rook. You don't have that situation now. Dark square bishop, rook that's on a light square, not possible in this situation. Rook D8, it is possible. So in the game we had queen to E7, not the better move, rook to D8. And what follows is knight to F5, E6 would have been even better, with the idea to finally push through with E5 and open this strong battery up. Knight F5 is also winning. Queen takes E5 is the follow-up. And pop quiz to you, the viewer. It's white to move. What move would you play here as white? Feel free to pause the video. Okay. In the game, the move that was played is rook to D1. A better move in this position would be knight to h4, looking to not only take advantage of this pin, but also simply land a deadly fork. Again, let's not forget about that weak point on g6. So knight h4 was best, but in the game we had rook to d1, and one more pop quiz. Black to move in this position. What did Marco do next? Feel free to pause the video. Okay. In the game, Marco resigned. That was his ultimate blunder. Why do I say it's an ultimate blunder? Because black is actually winning. What is the winning move that Marco missed in this position? Feel free to pause the video to figure it out. Okay, the winning move here, well, first, before I show the winning move, what made Marco resign, most likely? It's this pin. Bishop apparently cannot move. It's hit 3 times. It's only defended twice, and you can't defend it again. And it seems like you can't move the bishop, but indeed you can move the bishop and should move the bishop to g1. That's the star move that Marco missed. He resigned, again, in this position, in this winning position, instead of this star move, bishop g1, attacking the queen, saying, go ahead, take my rook, because I will then take your king. But he missed it. He made an ultimate chess blunder. Do you have any first-hand experience with an ultimate chess blunder? I think I might have done that a time or two in only a bullet game, but certainly not some serious over-the-board game like this tournament game, this Monte Carlo tournament of 1902. Anyhow, feel free, as usual, to leave any feedback to this video in the comment section below. And also, yeah, if you suggested rook to d, how many of you thought rook to d1 was the best move for white? That's actually the losing move, but Marco resigned instead of spotting bishop to g1. How many of you thought it was rook to d1? How many of you came up with that one? Anyhow, feel free to leave any feedback, and I hope you enjoyed this video. That's all for now. Take care. Bye.